Now, we are continuing to monitor the situation in Venezuela, where authoritarian President Nicolas Maduro has been declared the winner of Sunday's election. That's according to the country's National Electoral Council. Maduro suggested there would be bloodshed if he lost, but shifted his rhetoric after being declared the winner.
Lo dije.
I said it. There was peace before, and there was, during, and we have it. And there will be peace, stability, and justice after the 28th of July, starting from today. Peace, justice, respect of the law, and justice.
Well, Maduro's main challenger was opposition candidate Edmundo González Urrutia, a former diplomat who the coalition rallied behind after their two preferred candidates were barred from running. Speaking in Tokyo, moments after the result was announced, US Secretary of State Antony Blinken called on the electoral authorities to ensure transparency and accountability.
We've seen the announcement just a short while ago by the Venezuelan Electoral Commission. We have serious concerns that the result announced does not reflect the will or the votes of the Venezuelan people. It's critical that every vote be counted fairly and transparently, that election officials immediately share information with the opposition and independent observers without delay, and that the electoral authorities publish the detailed tabulation of votes. The international community is watching this very closely and will respond accordingly.
Well, we go now to journalist Stefano Pozzebon in the capital, Caracas, with reaction from the opposition and regional leaders.
Venezuela is living through hours of tension this Monday morning as the electoral authorities, which are heavily controlled by the government, have declared longtime strongman Nicolas Maduro as the winner of the presidential election celebrated on 28th of July. The announcement came around midnight on Monday morning, 6 hours after the polling closed and after an extensive wait when the opposition was claiming that they were ahead in the voting count. And this is why there has been a lot of doubts, cast a lot of doubts over these results. This is how the Venezuelan opposition reacted.
We want to tell all Venezuelans and to the entire world that Venezuela has a new president-elect, and that is Edmundo González Urrutia. We won, and everyone knows it. Everyone knows it. I want you to know that this was something so overwhelming, so big, that we won in every sector of the country.
On his part, Maduro was quickly to claim victory. He took the stage in a presidential palace, saying that the election occurred in a climate of peace and tranquility, that he's the true leader of Venezuela. However, many countries in Latin America have already announced that they doubt these results. All of these countries include Chile, Peru, Costa Rica, and others. The United States are urging caution and inviting the electoral authorities to proceed with the publication of all the numbers and the data they have. In the next few hours, the situation will continue to evolve here in Caracas.
Tamara, good to have you on the program. Let's talk about the voting irregularities, of course, the accusations of fraud in this election. Do you expect that any of the voting data would be released to the public?
Well, there is no evidence of the results that the government announced, which makes them very, very difficult to believe. They contradict exit polls, they contradict what we saw on the streets, and they contradict what the evidence shows in the few cases that the opposition did have access to the electoral ballot results. And they were there in the large majority of voting centers. So it's not that, there was no witnesses there to see what was actually happening. So the question now is, what will the international community do with this? As Stefano was saying, there is a lot of doubt about these results. And I want to highlight that this election, despite the fact that they were not clean nor fair, are an opportunity to move forward in a transition to democracy in Venezuela, because the people massively mobilized to vote, and the vast majority voted for change.
this is an opportunity. What is there any optimism that Nicolas Maduro would be open to this and negotiations?
He will not lose power voluntarily. Fraud was what they were supposed to be doing because that's the only thing they could do to cling on to power. But the question now in Venezuela is has to be understood by looking at the context. Power is not monolithic in Venezuela. You don't have everyone aligned behind Maduro. And that opens the door to an opportunity. There are many people in Venezuela within the electoral power, within the judiciary, within the armed forces, who are not blacklisted and will not end up in jail if there is a transition to democracy. And these are the people who today have to make a decision. Will they be on the side of the people and the Venezuelan will that was expressed yesterday in the pause, or will they cling on to power and validate, if that is at all possible, the electoral results that were provided yesterday night, after claiming an absurd terrorist attack on the institutions because they had to hide the real results that everyone knows took place yesterday.
Regarding Brazil and Colombia, who these countries obviously have a lot of influence on Nicolas Maduro, what kind of response do you anticipate and what do you hope these countries will do?
Well, I think their silence until now is actually a good sign because I hope it means that they're having private conversations with the government of Nicolas Maduro to explain that they will have no possibility to govern, to have access to markets, to have access to the legitimacy that they wanted to get out of these elections if there is no belief in the electoral results. They have a very important role to play, both Brazil and Colombia, because of the closeness to the Maduro government, but it's a critical role. And they have to be very clear in terms of what they expect, because otherwise they're just going to be giving Maduro a blank check to continue clinging on to power arbitrarily. I want to highlight the role that and the statements of Chile, which is another left-leaning government that has been very clear questioning the results. And there has been a consensus in several countries in the region, in Europe, the United States, calling for credible election results. And that's what Brazil and Colombia should do. And they should do it clearly to be able to press the Maduro government to accept the will of the people. And again, I want to highlight that here, it's not about convincing Maduro. Maduro is going to have a very hard time facing a quiet life after being in office because he is implicated in crimes against humanity. He is implicated in crimes related to corruption, drug trafficking, money laundering. And some folks close to him are implicated in these crimes too. And the threat of criminal prosecution and jail for all of these crimes is real. But not everyone is in that category. And everyone else should think twice before clinging on to power, because they do and can have a better future in a democratic Venezuela.
All right, a lot of uncertain days ahead. We shall see how it all plays out. Tamara Terechuk-Broder, thank you so much for your time.